Good day, everyone. So, at this moment, our group will make a reaction video about the case study number 3 entitled, Did Rizal Retract? Sinulat nga ba o gawa-gawa lang? Binawi nga ba o pinanindigan hanggang kamatayan? So, malalaman natin mamaya yung opinion ng aking grupo about dito sa retraction na Rizal. But before that, let us first give you a little bit description or background about our national hero, Dr. Jose Rizal.
Jose Protasio Rizal Mercado y Alonzo or Yolanda was a Filipino nationalist, writer, and polymath active of the end of the Spanish colonial period of the Philippines. He is a considered national hero of the Philippines. He was executed by the Spanish colonial government of the crime of rebellion after the Philippines Revolution broke out. He was inspired by his writing, thought he was not actively involved in its planning or conduct. He ultimately approved of its goals, which eventually resulted in the Philippines. Rizal is widely considered one of the greatest heroes of the Philippines, and he's been recommended to be so honored by an officially employed National Heroes Committee. However, no law, executive order, or proclamation has been enacted or issued. Officially as a national hero, he wrote the novels No Le Tangere and El Filibusterismo, which together are taken as a national epic edition. In addition to numerous poems, Jose Rizal died on December 30, 1896 at age 35. Bagong Bayan, Maynila, Capital General of the Philippines, Spanish Empire. Father of Jose Rizal, Francisco Rizal Mercado. Mother of Jose Rizal, Riza Teodora Alonzo Yolanda.
So, that's it. Dahil doon sa mga writings and articles ni Rizal, specifically yung No Le Tangere at yung El Filibusterismo, which vilify the Catholic religion but the friars as the main agents of injustices in the Philippine society, na-trigger yung mga Espanyol, and then it leads to the capturing or dinakip nila si Rizal at inilagay nila sa Fort Santiago and was sentenced to death after being implicated as the leader of the Philippine Revolution. At ayun na nga, papunta na tayo sa exciting part. The night before Dr. Jose Rizal's execution, that was on December 29, 1896, there are accounts or may mga lumabas na primary sources that Dr. Jose Rizal did retract all his Masonic ideals, all his writings, and reconverted to Catholicism after several hours of the friars' persuasion. So, ano nga ba yung retraction? Retraction is the act of taking back an offer or statement or admitting that the previous one was false. So, yun yung gustong mangyari ng mga Espanyol noon or ng Simbahang Katolika. They want Dr. Jose Rizal at his last hours on that Fort Santiago, they want him to retract all he wrote against the Spaniards and the Catholic Church, and they want him to reconvert to Catholicism again. However, there is a considerable doubt on Rizal's friends and families because they didn't believe or hindi sila naniwala that Dr. Jose Rizal did retract until on 1935, the supposed document with Rizal's signature was found. This document, referred to as the retraction, declares Rizal's belief in the Catholic faith and retracts everything he wrote about the Catholic Church. So, we will present 4 primary sources and 2 secondary sources about this topic. So, the first primary source is the document itself, yung mismong dokumento. There are 4 iterations of the text of this retraction, means merong 4 na pag-uulit ng teksto ng retraction. The first was published in La Voz Española and Diario de Manila on the day of the execution, that is on December 30, 1896. The second text appeared in Barcelona, Spain in the magazine La Juventud a few months after the execution, that is on February 14, 1897, from an anonymous writer who was later revealed as Father Vicente Balaguer. However, the original text was found in Archdiocesan archives on May 18, 1935 after almost 4 decades of disappearance. So kung makikita natin, the retraction was published in different years and in different months. So ito yung laman ng retraction ni Rizal. It was translated from the document found by Father Manuel Garcia on May 18, 1935. It says, I declare myself a Catholic, and in this religion in which I was born and educated, I wish to live and die. I retract with all my heart whatever in my words, writings, publications, and conduct has been contrary to my character as son of the Catholic Church. I believe and I confess whatever she teaches, and I submit to whatever she demands. I abominate Masonry as the enemy which is of the Church, and as a society prohibited by the Church. The diocesan prelate may, as the superior ecclesiastical authority, make public this spontaneous manifestation of mine in order to repair the scandal which my acts may have caused, and so that God and people may pardon me. Signed by Dr. Jose Rizal. So now let's move on to the another primary source that comes from Father Vicente Balaguer.
Everyone, so at this point, I will discuss the statement and account of Father Vicente Balaguer. Father Vicente Balaguer was born in Alicante, Spain on January 19, 1851. Moreover, he was one of the Jesuit priests who visited Rizal's last hours in Fort Santiago and claimed that he managed to persuade Rizal to denounce Masonry and return to the Catholic fold. In 1917, he had returned to Spain, an affidavit executed that proves he was who solemnized the marriage of Jose Rizal and Josephine Bracken. According to Father Balaguer, he and Father Villaclara arrived in Rizal's prison cell around 10 o'clock in the morning on December 29, 1896. He mentioned in his letter and affidavit that their encounter with Rizal started with a discussion of some articles of Catholic faith. They debated on issues such as the supremacy of faith over reason and the dogmatic differences that divided Catholics and Protestants. They explained to him that they could not administer the sacraments he needed without him signing a retraction letter and making a profession of faith. The two Jesuits left Rizal's prisons around lunchtime with Rizal's still undecided over whether to sign the retraction letter or not. So the Jesuits went straight to the Archbishop's palace and informed their superiors of what had transpired during their first meeting with Rizal. According to Father Balaguer, Rizal found the first template unacceptable because it was too long and its language and style were not reflective of his personality. So Father Balaguer withdrew it and offered a shorter one. Rizal did not sign it right away because he was uncomfortable with the statement, I abominate Masonry as a society reprobated by the Church. Rizal wanted to emphasize that Philippine Masonry was not hostile to Catholicism and that Masonry in London did not require its members to renounce their faith. According to Rizal, his rule of faith is the word of God that can be seen in the sacred scriptures. Rizal declared himself as a rationalist, free thinker. The retraction was signed together with Rizal by Senior Fresno, chief of the Piquet, and Senor More, adjutant of Plaza. Father Balaguer testified that on the very day of Rizal's death, he wrote everything and preserved the account and served as the data of presentation of his narration. Father Balaguer was also shared that before Dr. Rizal reached the Bagumbayan or Luneta today, he went to Ateneo and delivered the aforementioned document to Father Pio, and at the same day brought it to the palace and handed over to Archbishop Nuzaleda. To conclude whether or not Jose Rizal retracted, the researchers believe that the retraction document was more of Rizal taking a moral courage to recognize his mistakes. Perhaps it may be true that he retracted and reverted to his faith, but this does not diminish Rizal's stature as a great hero with such a greatness.
Everyone, so let's talk about Padre Piopay's statement. Piopay was one of the Spanish Jesuits who sent out his men, including Padre Vicente Balaguer, to convince Rizal to revert to his Catholic beliefs. This tells us that Padre Vicente Balaguer was one of the personalities who made direct contact with Rizal, thus making him a primary source of information. So next, let's talk about Padre Piopay's account. On the eve of the day Rizal was put in the chapel, that is on December 28th, I received the commission which Archbishop Nazaleda entrusted to the Jesuit fathers, spiritual care of the convict. So, ito yung sinasabi na gusto ng Archbishop ng Manila noon na tulungan sa Rizal na maibalik sa Catholic faith bago ito mamatay. Rizal had always preserved for us, the Jesuit, a special esteem and affection, even after his estrangement from the church, and had rendered us good service. So, sinasabi ni Father Pio Pai, ang dahilan daw kung bakit ang mga swita ay eager na tumulong kay Rizal na may balik siya sa pananampalatayang Katoliko ay dahil yun na nga nabanggit natin na naging mabuti ito sa kanila at isa siya sa mga mahusay na estudyante ng Ateneo noon. When the retraction was to be subscribed to, he found certain objection in the form of the composition presented by Father Balaguer, the one sent by the Archbishop. Ayan, sinasabi niya na tinanggihan ni Rizal yung retraction doon sa version ng Archbishop na mahaba. The one which I had made was shorter, although conclusive, and this pleased him. So, ito ang sinasabi dito ni Father Pio Pai na yung kanya daw version, yung tinanggap ni Rizal. Nevertheless, to make it appear more of his own spontaneous, he wished to introduce some little modification. So, yun na nga, yung sinulat ni Rizal na retraction ay nakabatay doon sa binigay ni Father Pio Pai. Not satisfied with signing so explicit an adjuration, Rizal himself, without pressure from anyone, took onto his hand his own document and knelt down before the altar of the chapel, aloud and slowly, and even with a certain solemnity, he read his own retraction. So, ito yung sinasabi na ni Father Vicente Balaguer na after niyang magsulat ni Jose Rizal at mapirmahan yung retraction, so si Rizal daw ay lumuhod at nagdasal sa altar at binasa yung kanyang retraction. Sumunod kong titignan natin, yung mga statement na yun ni Father Pio Pai ay binigyan ng justification yung retraction ni Rizal.
Hi everyone, so at this point I will discuss the testimony of Corpo de Vigilancia. Corpo de Vigilancia de Manila was the intelligence service unit that the Spanish created in 1895, primarily to gather information on the activities of certain groups suspected of plotting and uprising against the colonial establishment. It was organized primarily to gather information about the activities of Katipunan members and supporters. Corpo agents were tasked to monitor the activities of suspected Katipunan members. They were supposed to report all sorts of rumors, collect news reports, identify the financiers of the Katipunan, compile revolutionary papers, gather photographs, and intercept mail. The agents were also instructed to monitor the foreigners who were sympathetic to the Katipuneros. In a span of 3 years, they were able to collect 3,000 documents containing eyewitness accounts of the activities of individuals fighting for Philippine independence. The partial unreleased documents from Corpo de Vigilancia that was discovered and examined from there. It stated that one of the spy group agents, Federico Moreno, who happened to be the guard of the cell where Rizal was kept, document what was happening in the last 24 hours prior before the execution. The Spanish spy called Corpo de Vigilancia, a report written on the day of Rizal's death, can be found by Federico Moreno, recounting a statement made to him by an agent of Corpo de Vigilancia, a guard in the Rizal cell, therefore an additional independent eyewitness account. According to the statement, Rizal wrote paper he heard of the retraction. Also mentioned were 2 Jesuit priests who entered Rizal prison, Father Jose de la Clara and Father March, and 2 others, Juan del Frino and Eloy Moore. The agent of Corpo de Vigilancia stationed in Fort Santiago to report on the events during the illegality day in prison of accused men, Jose Rizal.
Now, let's talk about the critical analysis of Rafael Palma. So who is Rafael Palma? Rafael Palma is a Filipino politician, Rizalian, lawyer, educator, and a writer. He was the former president of the University of the Philippines, a prominent Mason, and he was the author of Biografía de Rizal, which won a literary contest in 1938. So Rafael Palma gave a critical analysis against the retraction of Jose Rizal. He believed that Jose Rizal did not really retracted. Now, let's read his analysis. These acts tend to demonstrate that Rizal was not reconciled with the Catholic Church, judging from the way they treated him as after his death. In the first place, the document of the retraction was kept secret so that no one except the authorities was able to see it at that time. As far as we can remember, hindi nagkaroon ng access na sino man para makita yung document na retraction di umano ni Rizal. The document was kept o hindi ito isinapubliko at natagpuan lamang noong 1935 dahil kay Manuel Garcia. And the second place, when the family of Rizal asked for the original of said document or copy of it as well as copy of the certificate of canonical marriage with Josephine Bracken, both petitions were denied. So when the family of Jose Rizal asked for the original copy of the said document, at nung nanghingi sila ng marriage certificate ni Jose Rizal at Josephine Bracken, parehong hindi ibinigay ng Katolikong simbahan ang mga dokumentong iyon. In the third place, Rizal's burial was kept secret, the cadaver having been delivered to the members of Catholic Association, rendered to the friars instead of being delivered to the family who had claimed it. So dito, sinasabi ni Rafael Palma na bakit daw itinago ang katawan ni Jose Rizal at bakit daw inilibing ito ng patago. In the fifth place, notwithstanding that Rizal was reconciled with the church, he was not buried in the Catholic cemetery of Paco, but in the ground without any cross or stone to mark his grave. Only the diligence of the family was able to identify the spot where he was buried. Dahil nga inilibing ng patago ang katawan ni Jose Rizal, naghanap ng paraan ang pamilya niya para mahanap ang libigan nito sa sementeryo. Dito, hinanap ng kapatid ni Jose Rizal ang libingan niya at sinuhulan niya pa ang bantay ng sementeryo upang mahanap at malagyan lamang ng marka ang libingan ni Jose Rizal. In the sixth place, the entry in the book rules of the interment of Rizal's body is not made on the page with those buried on December 30, 1896, where there was as many as 6 entries, but on a special page wherein appeared those buried by special orders of the authorities. Thus, Rizal figures on a page between a man who burned to death and could not be identified and another who died by suicide. In other words, he was considered among persons who died impenitent and did not receive spiritual aid. So in this part, sinasabi ni Rafael Palma na bakit daw hindi nakalagay si Jose Rizal doon sa mga inilibing noong December 30, 1896. At kung namatay si Jose Rizal bilang isang Katoliko, bakit ganun ang pagtrato sa kanyang kamatayan? Ang misa, walang ginawang burol at inilibing na lamang ang kanyang katawan sa kung saan. In the last part of the analysis, sinabi ni Palma, in short, Rizal's conversion was a pious fraud to make the people believe that the extraordinary man broke down and succumbed before the church which he had fought. The Archbishop was interested in his conversion for political motives, and the Jesuits let themselves as his instruments. The analysis of Rafael Palma mentioned different evidences connected to the burial of Rizal. With the help of these evidences, Palma concluded that Rizal did not retract, and the alleged retract was for the political motives of Archbishop.
My task for tonight is to react the Austin Code's critical analysis. Before I proceed to the entire analysis, let me tell you a background of Austin Coates. Austin Coates, 1922 to 1997, was a British civil servant, writer, and a traveler. He was the son of noted English composer Eric Coates. Austin Coates wrote extensively on topics related to Asia-Pacific region, particularly the Hong Kong and Macau. In 1962, he left the British civil service to concentrate on writing. In 1968, he published Rizal, Philippine Nationalist and Martyr, a biography of Philippine national hero Jose Rizal, which serves as the second biographical account of the life and career of Rizal, authored by a non-Filipino. Pagkatapos ng execution, maraming lumabas na mga dyaryo, recorded na balita at inanunsyo na si Rizal ay nag-retract.
sa kanyang religious errors, adjured Freemasonry, at siya ay ikinasal kay Josephine Bracken. In most newspapers, the text of a letter of retraction supposedly written by Rizal was printed on full. So Rizal, family, and circle of personal friends took one look at the announcement and dubbed it an ecclesiastical fraud. While unquestionably a fraud, to suggest that the Archbishop's announcement was issued knowingly or there was a plot among the higher ecclesiastical authorities to perpetrate a fraud is going too far. So the nature of society within the church, they don't plan to work as an organization. They are usually work of a small man with his own idea, and the church is unwittingly it accepts the fraud as genuine, has to protect him. Rizal believed that there was a strong likelihood of fraud, and that the prime mover in his would be the friar archbishop. There is no evidence to implicate Nozaleda. Balaguer had the intelligence to perceive that everything depended on speed and audacity with which he declared his success. The archbishop waiting for attraction and announced it immediately, and it will be too late or Balaguer's colleagues to dent it. Certainly, there was no signed letter of retraction. Rizal believed before God he had nothing to retract. Archbishop's statement provoked had there been a signed retraction letter. It would have been produced for inspection. Balaguer's claims was apparent to the Jesuits, but it was too late to rectify. Hindi siya binigyan ng Christian burial if he didn't retract. So Rizal family found it difficult to accept the retraction or the marriage. Difficulties began as this belief spread, and it was deepened by Balaguer's urge to see himself publicly praised. Balaguer also damaged the church's case. He also unwittingly revealed his own fraud without mentioning ultimo adios. He concluded that no poem had been written, no mention of his account, thereby revealing the truth. Proof that he was not within the Fort Santiago that night, and had no knowledge of what is taking place. Not only did he not mention the poem, he also made his account so elaborate that Rizal is allowed no time to write, and glance at ultimo adios is needed to show that it taken several hours to write. So that's it. That's the analysis of Austin quotes.
And that's the end of the discussion or the presentation of our group according to this topic, no? About the case study number 3, the Rizal's retraction. And our group come up with one synonymous opinion. Meron kaming isang opinion that is Dr. Jose Rizal did not retract. So, allow me to elaborate the reasons bakit kami naniwala na hindi talaga nag-retract si Dr. Jose Rizal. So, kung matatandaan natin sa previous discussion ng isa sa aking mga kagrupo, specifically yung analysis ni Mr. Rafael Palma, kung paano niya inilahad yung mga nangyari sa katawan or kay Rizal during that time after his execution, we found it very persuading and it made sense. Lahat ng yon merong sense kasi nga ito. When Dr. Jose Rizal died, his body wasn't delivered to the family. Instead, it was delivered to the friars. Dun, dinerecho yung bangkay ni Dr. Jose Rizal. Also, wala ring misang nangyari, walang lamay na 'di ba dapat ito yung mangyayari if a Catholic person died. Ito yung mga ginagawa natin na ginagawa natin doon sa katawan. The body also wasn't buried on the Catholic cemetery of Paco. Instead, it was buried on the ground with no markings, no stone, no cross, walang mga bulaklak. Hindi nila nilagyan ng mga ganon yung puntod ni Dr. Jose Rizal. Another reason is that when the family asked for the retraction document of Dr. Jose Rizal and the marriage certificate of him with Josephine Bracken, walang ipinesent yung simbahang Katolika. Hindi nila binigyan ng mga documents yung family ni Rizal kasi nga during these days The document was kept secret and only the authorities have the access to this document. The pang dahilan is that if we base on the testimony of Cuerpo de Vigilancia and on the account of Father Vicente Balaguer, kasi nga, di ba, kung natatandaan nyo pa, Father Vicente Balaguer, si Father Vicente Balaguer, siya yung nagsabi na he is one of the person who have this direct contact with Dr. Jose Rizal during his last hours in Fort Santiago, and he also stated that he is the one who made Rizal sign the document. However, on the testimony of Cuerpo de Vigilancia, hindi na mention yung pangalan ni Father Vicente Balaguer na bumisita kay Rizal during the last hours of his life in Fort Santiago. Yung mga friars lang na include dun sa report is the Father March tsaka si Father Villaclara. Sila lang daw yung last na mga pare na bumisita kay Rizal. Kaya nga, no, there is a possibility that Father Vicente Balaguer is a mere secondary source and not primary source kasi hindi tumugma yung account niya dun sa na-report ng Cuerpo de Vigilancia. There's a possibility then that this is a kind of forgery or pwedeng nag-hire sila no, ng magaling na manunulat para i-plagiarize yung sulat kamay ni Rizal at gawin yung retraction document. So, ano sa tingin niyo, no? Did Rizal retract or Rizal did not retract? So, iiwan ko yung katanungan yan sa inyo kasi nga hanggang ngayon, this study or the retraction of Rizal is a continuous study pa rin siya. As we say, diba? History is a continuous study. There is still an ongoing debate on this retraction. Hindi pa rin napapanatag ang ating mga historians at patuloy pa rin nilang pinag-aaralan yung retraction ni Rizal kasi nga hati yung opinion ng marami. Merong naniniwala na nag-retract si Dr. Jose Rizal, meron din na naniniwala dun sa primary source which is Dr. Jose Rizal retracted. So, even though nag-retract si Rizal or hindi siya nag-retract, hindi naman nasayang o hindi naman nabago yung pananaw nating mga Pilipino sa kanya, and still, nakamit niya rin yung kanyang goal o yung aim ng kanyang mga articles, yung mga novels, mga sinulat niya, na pukawin at imulat yung mga Pilipino sa mga ginawa ng Espanyol noong unang panahon. Kung matatandaan nyo, after his death, many Filipinos were inspired and joined the Philippine Revolution that leads to our independence on June 12, 1898. So, hindi na sayang yung pagkamatay ng ating pambansang bayani. So, he is one of the most prominent Filipino who contributed a lot in building this country, Philippines. So, that's all of our presentation and our reaction. Thank you for listening, and I hope na may natutunan kayo sa gabing ito. And again, have a good day, everyone.